Hello and welcome to part 3 of our Moron retrospective. In this episode, we make our way through the vast city of Vivek and begin tracking down the informants. We also learn a shocking truth about the Nerevarine cult and more about our origins. Hey, I'm Gray Snake for NewElderScrolls.com and this is part 3. Vivek is one of the biggest and to me most confusing places in Morrowind. It's easy to get turned around in, even though there are some fast travel conveniences thrown in, like this boat you can take to different places. But Chaos has sent you into Vivek to complete 3 main tasks, which include speaking with Adhiranir, Hulia, and Mayra Milo. Why can't people just have normal names like Jim or Steve? I'm sick of trying to pronounce all these ridiculous damn names. Oh well, back to the task at hand. When you first get here, you meander all around trying to find where these douchers are, but even if you ask directions, you just get generic answers. After consulting your journal, you find that Hulia, an Argonian, is located in the foreign quarter at the back of the Shulk Corner Club. Well, I'm closest to the foreign quarters, so I'll start with her. Or him. I'm really not sure at this point. I mean, Hulia could be a guy or a girl. Wow, I am really reading way too much into this. Hey, how much you want to bet whether it's a guy or a girl they'll have some stupid task for me?
The traveler seeks
Well, I was right. He wants you to talk to some dudes about not beating the ever-loving crap out of him so he can visit his friend's bookstore. Only then will he answer your questions. So, you can bribe them, but I've made enough money from looting that I'm good on gear, and I'm just going to bribe him to get this thing moving along. Once this is dealt with, and you lead him to his buddies, he fills you in a bit more on the Nerevarine cult. I won't go into too much detail, but basically says that the Ashlanders have a different meaning than the Dunmer of the Great Houses about the Nerevar. There was persecution of the Nerevarine, and the legacy of the False Incarnate, and that this is the heart of the conflict between them. He gives you a summary of this for Chaos, and you move on to the next person. In order to find Adhiranir, you have to ask around. You ask the guards, and they don't really seem to care. This dude, Duvianus, is looking for too, and this third guy, Davies, is just gouging you for your money to let you know where she actually is. After some bribing, Davies fills you in on her location and tells you that a census and excise agent is looking for, which is probably the Duvianus guy. Once you find her, guess what? She wants you to get rid of the census douche. Shocker! So after assisting her with what is basically tax evasion, she gives you info on the Sixth House cult. Apparently, she knows a lot about this because it involves smuggling. The Sixth House pays big bucks for... well, she doesn't know. And that's about all she's got. On to the final person, Mayra Milo. You find her, and she tells you to follow her to the back, as talking here would be rude to all the people reading. None of them. She has more info on the Nerevarine cult, and this is the gist of it. The Nerevarine cult claims the Tribunal are false gods, and the Temple disagrees, which is why they punish those who believe in the prophecies of the Nerevar's reincarnation. A group calling themselves the Dissident Priests have a book called The Progress of Truth, which describes their beliefs. Then she tells us to find this book for Chaos so he can read about it. But, of course, it's been outlawed to sell or even possess this book. Awesome. She does mention that there is a copy here in the library, but it is heavily guarded. So, if you have the balls and the ability, you can just take it, but I'd advise against it. After returning to Chaos with the book, he gives you 200 gold and tells you to piss off while he reads up on the Nerevarine cult. After grinding a bit more, you come back to him and he tells you that you need an Ashlander informant. Fortunately, he's heard of a fellow in Aldrun named Hassaur Zain Subani. Once again, I am not making up these names. Hassaur. He tells you that the Ashlanders like to give and receive presents, they're douchers like that, and gives you 100 more gold and tells you to find out what he likes and get him a gift. Great. So after asking around town what another man's taste in presents is, like some deranged stalker, I resort to asking Hassaur himself. He likes poetry, so I guess to make this creepier, I will get him some poetry. I go to the bookseller who refers to Hassaur as a bibliophile. Wait, a what? I don't even know what that means. I'm not sure I want to know. A bibliophile? Really? So after this very uncomfortable exchange, he tells me to take some notes regarding the Ashlanders and the Nerevarine cult. After returning to Case, he promotes you yet again and sends you to speak with Sul Matul in Nabani Mesa. But before you leave, he decides to tell us what's going on. The Emperor and his advisors apparently believe that you have the appearance of meeting the conditions of the Nerevarine prophecies, which is why you were pulled out of prison and sent to Case in the first place. He then gives you a decoded copy of the package you gave him when you first arrived. He is sending you to the heads of the Nerevarine cult to test you against those prophecies. I go out to the local trader in Belmord to spend some of the money Caius gave me on a sweet Daedric sword and a few other items. So, getting to this place is a real pain in the ass, but you do get to meet and beat the crap out of some new creatures, which is awesome. Once you arrive, you ask the locals where Nabani Mesa is, and when you finally find her, she says that you should speak with Zabamund. He asks you who you are and why he should trust you, and at this point you have a few options. You can fight him, boast about your accomplishments, or just pay a tribute of 200 gold to gain his favor. Since everybody seems to be receptive to bribes so far, I'm going to dish out the gold. Ooh, look at that. He took the money. Shocker. He tells you to go to the Ashkan's yurt and speak with Sul Matul. You find him in his yurt surrounded by a purple fart bubble, and he says he has an initiation rite in mind to adopt you as a clan friend of the Ashlanders. This rite basically involves grave robbing his father's burial grounds to find the Bonebiter bow. Inside this cavern you find the usual rats and skeletons, but what really catches your eye is the mummies holding all the sweet items that are worth a lot. I'm sure nothing happens if you take them, but because I've seen enough Indiana Jones movies, I know enough not to be tempted by these items, for fear of getting my ass beat by a bunch of undead butt sacks, or getting caught in traps, or running away from a giant rock. The usual. Anyways, as you would imagine, the bow is in the highest room of the cavern. So you get there, whoop the ghost of Sumatu's dead dad, and make off with the bow. When you get back to Sumatu, he allows you to keep his bow and tells you to go back to speak with Nabani. Nabani tells you that you are not the Nerevarine, but you are one who may become the Nerevarine. Suddenly I'm reminded of the Matrix when Neo speaks with the Oracle the first time. I cannot believe I just made that reference. She asks if you want to become the Nerevarine, and if so, you should seek out the lost prophecies among the dissident priests of the temple and bring them back to her. I head back to old Caius, who says he'll try and get word to Mayra Milo and find out if the dissident priests have any lost prophecies just lying around. Then he says in the meantime, he has a difficult task for you. He gives you 400 gold to gear up some more and sends you to speak with champion Reza Pulia at Fort Buckmoth about a 6-house base, a 6-house shrine, and a priest named Dagoth Garrus. Apparently, he wants us to find him and kill him. Once at Fort Buckmoth, you find Reza, and she tells you that only one trooper returned from the 6-house base, and he died shortly after of corpus disease. But before he did die, he spoke of a cavern on the coast called the Ilunibi. So you make your way through this cavern, getting attacked by skeletons, the scamps, and the corpus stalkers. Then you come across this unholy ass pickle who immediately starts whooping your ass with all these spells. And, after defeating him, he doesn't even leave you anything good. What a schwanz. When you finally find Dagoth Garrus, he blathers on about how awesome he is and how he knew you were coming. Then he relays a message from Dagoth about how we were old buddies, apparently, and then we kicked his ass once, and that he could really forgive us if we come to Red Mountain and kiss and make up. That's when he attacks you and you notice that he's got a schlong growing out of his face. Yeah, he has to die. What you got? You got nothing. Pretty hard to see me with that dick growing out of your face, isn't it? Having a dickless face is quite an advantage in a fight. After you kill him, he gurgles something cryptic at you and dies. Unfortunately, he gives you the dick face disease. The corpus disease. And then you have to go and find a cure for it. I think I should head back to Chaos. Well, the plot has thickened. Are we Lord Nerevar? If so, were we really friends with Dagoth in that life? Will we ever find a cure for the dick face disease? All these answers are coming up in Part 4. Be sure to tune in. I'm Gray Snake for NewElderScrolls.com, and this is our Morrowind Retrospective.